I'm Julie Pace, Washington Bureau Chief for the Associated Press, and this is Ground Game. Democrats get one more chance to debate before voters start to get their say in the party's primary. And with polls showing a crowded top tier in Iowa, the stakes are sky high.
Well, I'm going to leave it to the Senate, but I'd like to hear the whistleblower. I'd like to hear Shifty Schiff. I'd like to hear Hunter Biden and Joe Biden.
Hanging over the debate, impeachment and big questions about how some of the Democratic candidates will balance being Senate jurors with running for president. All eyes are on Iowa, just 3 weeks from the caucuses. And there is nobody who knows the state better than Tom Beaumont. He's AP's national political reporter based in beautiful Des Moines. Tom, thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Julie. It's great to be here.
So first of all, the most important question, because I'm going to be heading to Iowa pretty soon, give me the weather forecast. I need to know what I need to pack here.
Fresh snow and ice on the ground, pretty gray and, in the low 30s, so not DC weather at all. So bring some sensible shoes. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. All right. I like it. I like that it's not just fresh snow, but fresh ice as well. That's how we like it in Iowa in January. So we're really in the home stretch here. And the big thing that everybody is looking at this week is the debate, the last chance for these candidates to make their case on a big national stage before we get to caucus day. What are the dynamics that you're going to be watching for in the Iowa debate?
I think that Buttigieg has to stand tall as a potential president. He's tried to do that in the past couple of debates. He can't afford to take any shots at Warren or at Biden at this point. He needs to look like the adult in the room. What I can't get a real handle on is whether Warren or Klobuchar are going to be coming at him. They've had some grievances with him. I wonder if they too are going to be presenting their closing arguments, trying to appear presidential and let some of the sniping of the last couple of debates go.
One of the things I think I'll be watching for in this debate is it feels like it's gotten a little chippy out on the campaign trail the last few days after a lot of niceties for several months. Are the candidates going to be using this debate to draw contrasts with each other, or are they going to be trying to make their own case? What are you hearing from some of the campaigns?
Well, Bernie Sanders has made Joe Biden, a real target. He's going after him still on the Iraq vote from 2002, calling it, the worst foreign policy debacle in modern American history and tattooing Biden with that. It seems a little odd to me because it doesn't seem like those two are fighting for the same voters, but maybe there's something in the, deep in the crosstabs that shows us that.
And I want to get back to Buttigieg for a second there, because one of the things that I've been wrestling with a little bit as we look not just at Iowa and down the line is a question that a smart strategist put in my head last week. And I'm curious to get your thoughts, Tom. Does Pete Buttigieg need to win Iowa? Is this a must win for him?
He stands a very good chance of finishing ahead of some of the, best known figures in the National Democratic Party. So I don't necessarily think so. If he finishes ahead of Warren, if he finishes ahead of Biden, that says a lot about a guy who, until recently was the mayor of a town of about 100,000 people and is exactly half of the age of, the rest of these top contenders in Iowa. So a win here would be huge and would vault him into New Hampshire. But a second place finish, given where he came from, would be very strong. To answer your question, no, I don't think so.
Buttigieg is in a really close race in Iowa with three other candidates, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. There was a highly anticipated poll from the Des Moines Register out last week that just underscored how close this race is. It's really a jump ball between those four candidates. Tom, you have covered a lot of caucuses. How unusual is what we're seeing right now with this really crowded top tier?
I've never seen one this packed, and I only go back to 2004, and it was pretty tight, a month, 2 months out in 2004. But with, just a month ago when this poll was taken, to have the top four candidates within, 5 percentage points of each other it's remarkable. noteworthy is that Buttigieg, who leapt to the top of the poll in November, has slid back a number of points, 9 percentage points he slid back. He's now in a very, very close third behind Warren and Bernie Sanders. This I attribute to having taken a lot of incoming over the last 6 weeks, given his surge in the polls, both in Iowa and New Hampshire, on his work for McKinsey, his high-dollar fundraisers. He's been able to parry them pretty well, but it seems like his support in Iowa, which may in November have been kind of people saying, yeah, I'm open to him. I think it's come down to earth, and this is really, ballpark where his support lies. I don't necessarily see Bernie with a heck of a lot more support than the 20% that he registered in this poll. And I see the guy with the biggest liability in the poll continuing to be Biden. I mean, he's really kind of stuck down there around that 15% mark. And, he could very well finish fourth. And I don't know how strong that shows he is coming out of Iowa.
When you talk to voters, Tom, again, 3 weeks from the Iowa caucuses, what do you hear from them that leads them to maybe not make a final choice at this stage? What more do they need to know about these candidates? What are their reservations at this point?
It's a remarkable question because you and I follow this stuff every day. And a lot of these people just opened the window to considering it after the new year. Even
in a state like Iowa, where candidates have been for a year.
Right, because they know that, the rush is going to come. They're going to get to see them. They've been inundated with ads, but that's not really what drives caucus support. It's the up close, and it doesn't necessarily mean sitting in a living room with somebody, but it means standing in a gymnasium with somebody and listening to them both deliver their remarks, get a measure of their personality and their persona, as well as listen to them take questions. It doesn't surprise me. So many people are still undecided. It is remarkable, though, that, a month out, the Des Moines Register's poll showed 45% of people, even if they have a first choice, could still change their mind, and that only 13% of them had a firm first choice.
That is remarkable. And it also is what is giving some hope to some of these second-tier candidates, the people like Amy Klobuchar. How important do you think those candidates remain in this race? Are they important because they could have a last-minute surge, or are they important because the top-tier candidates can be making appeals to their supporters? Because the caucuses, again, are a little bit weird. You can go into the caucus, you can voice your support for one candidate, and then if your candidate doesn't meet viability, you can switch. So what kind of role do these second-tier candidates play right now?
I think the second-tier candidates only have one shot to be viable in the very first round of voting, because it only goes to 2 rounds, as you point out. Klobuchar has been making a pretty fierce run. She got $11 million in the fourth quarter, and she's been very actively trying to assemble that all-important organization in Iowa. But if it was too late a month ago to put together an organization to really collect that kind of support, it's too late now. And we saw her with 6%. She's still making a charge, and she overlaps with a lot of Buttigieg and Biden supporters, kind of the pragmatic, get things done, not too far to the left. But unless she's viable in that first round, a lot of those people are going to go to Buttigieg, if you look at the poll, because his footprint is bigger than anybody else's. That is first place, second place, or actively considering. Buttigieg owns that, followed closely by Warren. But Warren and Klobuchar, you don't hear a lot of overlap there because they're, stylistically and ideologically quite different.
One thing that they do have in common, they're both senators. And the wild card in this caucus is the fact that the senators who are running are going to have to spend a lot of these next 3 weeks back in Washington as jurors in the Trump impeachment trial. How is that affecting strategy on the ground in Iowa? What does it feel like on the ground as these candidates try to figure out, when they can be out doing events and when they're going to have to be back in Washington?
Well, it feels like there's a natural advantage for Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, who are not constrained by this. And it feels like it would be a massive complication, though not one that these campaigns haven't been trying to plan for. However, as you well know, there aren't very many direct flights between Washington and Iowa.
Note to the airlines, we could use more direct flights between Washington and Des Moines.
At least every 4 years. So there's a lot of uncertainty. It's going to be a logistical hassle for them. And I'll be curious to see if some of these candidates who might end up getting trapped in Washington try to make the impeachment part of their, appeal in Iowa, somehow, try to bridge those two.
It will be fascinating to see how they try to campaign, make their appeals to Iowa voters while they're stuck in Washington. Tom, I cannot wait to get out to Iowa and be on the ground with you guys. There's so many interesting storylines, and I really appreciate you taking time to be with us on Ground Game.
Wear your warm jacket, Julie.
I'm ready for it, and my boots.
Okay.
Tom Beaumont, AP's national political reporter based in Des Moines, Iowa. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Julie.
As we wrap up this episode of Ground Game from the Associated Press, a reminder, we're now airing twice a week. That's right, double the dose of political news from the Beltway and beyond. Be sure to tell a friend about us, and please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. From the Westwood One Podcast Network.